Ferrari just shocked everyone in Miami, but the real surprise isn't how fast they were. It's how much faster they might still become. 1 minute 29.310. Fastest lap. Perfect execution. No mistakes. But here's what makes this moment dangerous. That lap didn't look like car at its limit. It looked easy. And when a Formula One car looks easy, it means there's more performance still hidden. Because while Ferrari finally unlocked the true potential of the SF-26, the rest of the grid just realized something they didn't want to see. This wasn't a peak. It was a warning. Ferrari didn't just arrive in Miami with speed, they arrived with answers. For weeks, there were doubts around the SF-26. Fast in moments, yes, but inconsistent, sensitive, difficult to fully trust over a full run. And then Miami happens. Leclerc goes out, sets the fastest lap of the session, a 1 minute 29.310, and suddenly everything changes. Not just because of the time, because of how that time was set. Smooth inputs, no corrections, no visible struggle. It looked natural, and that's the first real clue. Because in Formula One, when a driver doesn't need to fight the car, performance starts to appear almost by itself. Now, think about what Ferrari actually brought to this weekend. A new floor already in its third evolution, designed to stabilize airflow and generate more consistent downforce at high speed. Refined side pods, helping manage both airflow and cooling in extreme temperatures. A redesigned front wing, not just for more grip, but to balance everything happening at the rear. And then, the piece everyone is talking about. The rear wing system, the Macarena 2.0, working together with the rest of the car to unlock straight line speed without destroying balance. But here's the key. None of these parts matter on their own. What matters is that for the first time, they are all working together. Imagine trying to push a heavy object with people pulling in different directions. You have effort but no efficiency. Now imagine everyone pushing in the same direction. That's Ferrari in Miami. Everything aligned. And when that alignment happens, something very important appears. Consistency. Because speed is easy to find for one lap. But repeating that performance, controlling it, trusting it, that's what defines a top car. And Miami might be the first time Ferrari has shown exactly that. But here's where it becomes even more interesting. This session wasn't under perfect conditions. The track temperature was extremely high, over 50 degrees on the asphalt. That kind of heat usually makes cars unpredictable. Tires overheat, balance shifts, small issues become big problems. And yet, Ferrari still looked comfortable. That's not just performance, that's stability under stress. And this is where the real potential of the SF-26 starts to reveal itself. Because if the car works in extreme conditions, then in normal conditions, it could be even stronger. But there's one detail that keeps this story open. Because while Ferrari looked in control, they didn't pull away. And that raises a question that no one answered after that session. If this is Ferrari at its best, why does it still feel like the gap should be bigger? And that question is exactly where everything starts to change. And this is where the story starts to feel uncomfortable, because the numbers don't match the expectation. Ferrari leads the session. Clean lap. Full control. But Verstappen is right there, just 0.297 behind. After everything Red Bull went through at the start of the season, that gap is too small. And that creates a contradiction. Because if Ferrari just unlocked the full potential of the SF-26, then why does it still feel like someone is about to catch them? Now imagine this like a race where one runner finally reaches top speed, but the runner behind is still accelerating. That's the tension Miami created. Ferrari looks fast. Red Bull looks like it's getting faster. And those are not the same thing. But here's where it gets deeper. Because Ferrari's performance is built on precision. Everything working in a narrow window. Perfect balance, perfect airflow, perfect temperature. When it works, it looks dominant. But that kind of performance can be sensitive. Small changes in conditions, tire wear, traffic, and suddenly the car behaves differently. Not dramatically, but enough to lose that perfect edge. Now compare that to what Red Bull showed. They didn't look perfect. They looked comfortable. The car responding. The driver trusting it again. And that creates a completely different kind of threat. Because while Ferrari might already be close to extracting everything from their package, Red Bull might still be discovering theirs. And this is where the real pressure begins. Because in Formula One, it's not just about how fast you are. It's about how much faster you can still become. Ferrari showed their best version. Red Bull hinted at a better one coming. And when that happens, the advantage you see today can disappear faster than expected. Now connect this to the rest of the grid. Mercedes, dominant at the start of the season, suddenly drops almost 8 tenths behind. That's not a small step back. That's a shift in the entire competitive order. McLaren is quick, but still searching for answers. So suddenly, Ferrari is leading, but the field behind is unstable, unpredictable, still evolving. And that's a dangerous place to be. Because when others are still improving, they are not limited yet. They are still finding speed. And Ferrari might already be showing it. So now the question becomes impossible to ignore. Did Miami prove that Ferrari is the fastest car? Or did it expose that they might already be closer to their limit than they would like? And this is where everything shifts from performance to consequence. Because showing your full potential this early in a weekend can be a double-edged sword. On one side, Ferrari now knows the SF-26 works. Not just in theory, not just in simulations on track, under pressure, in extreme heat, against real competition. That's confidence. That's clarity. But on the other side, they've just revealed their hand. Every team now has data, sector times, speed traces, behavior in high-temperature conditions, how the car reacts in long straights, how it performs through fast corners. And in Formula One, information spreads fast. Now imagine you're Red Bull. You don't need to guess anymore. You know where Ferrari is strong. You know where the gains are coming from. You know what kind of balance they're running. And more importantly, you know where to attack. Because no car is perfect. And this is where the hidden weakness starts to matter. Ferrari's strength comes from everything working together in a very precise way. But that also means if one part is disturbed, the entire system feels it. Dirty air, traffic, race pace, tire degradation, all the things that don't show up in a clean qualifying style lap. Now, think about the next phase of the weekend. This wasn't qualifying. This wasn't a race. This was a single session with limited information for everyone. And yet Ferrari already looks close to their best. That's impressive, but it also means there might not be much left to unlock, while other teams still have room to improve. Red Bull, for example, just made a massive step forward in one session, jumping into second place after struggling earlier in the season. That kind of progress doesn't stop instantly. It usually continues, and that's where the pressure builds. Because now Ferrari has to protect an advantage that might already be fully visible. They have to maintain performance while others are still finding it. They have to stay consistent while others are still improving. And that's one of the hardest positions in Formula One. Leading is difficult, but leading when others are accelerating behind you, that's where mistakes happen. That's where pressure builds. That's where championships start to slip. So now everything comes down to one final idea. Ferrari's incredible pace in Miami didn't just show how fast the SF-26 can be. It exposed where they stand in the development race. At the front, but possibly closer to the limit than anyone expected. And if that's true, then the real fight hasn't even started yet. Because the teams behind are no longer guessing. They're targeting. And the moment they get it right, that small gap we saw in Miami might disappear faster than anyone is ready for. And this is where the real answer finally reveals itself, because Miami was never just about pace. It was about timing. Ferrari arrived ready, prepared, aligned, everything working together at the exact moment it needed to. That's why the lap looked so clean. That's why the car looked so easy to drive. That's why the performance appeared almost effortless. But Formula One doesn't stand still. And this is the part that changes everything. Because while Ferrari may have reached that level first, they now have to stay there. And staying at the top is always harder than getting there. Now imagine balancing at the very edge of something. You've reached the highest point, everything is stable, but every small movement matters. That's Ferrari right now. Every setup change, every tire decision, every adjustment for track evolution has to be perfect, because there's no margin left. And this is where the danger comes in. Behind them, teams like Red Bull are not balancing at the edge. They're still climbing. They're still discovering performance, still improving the way the car behaves, still unlocking confidence between driver and machine. And that process doesn't slow down immediately. It builds. Now go back to that number again. 0.297. That's the gap between Ferrari and Red Bull in that session. But that number is misleading because it doesn't represent distance. It represents timing. Ferrari is already operating near its optimal state. Red Bull is approaching it. And when two lines meet like that, the moment of contact is inevitable. That's the real tension Miami created. Because Ferrari showed what the SF-26 can do. But they also showed where that performance comes from. And once your rivals understand that, they don't need to match everything. They only need to close the right gaps. So now the entire championship shifts into a different phase. Not discovery, execution. Ferrari has to repeat this level again and again, under different conditions, under pressure, under attack. And Red Bull only needs to keep improving. And in Formula One, the team that improves faster eventually overtakes the one that peaked earlier. So the final realization is simple and uncomfortable. Ferrari's incredible day one pace didn't just expose the true potential of the SF-26. It exposed exactly how that potential works. And that means one thing. From this moment forward, they are no longer the only team that understands it. So now the question isn't whether Ferrari is fast. It's whether they can stay ahead once everyone else starts catching up.